Welcome to the morning show. It's your last wake up here at Watches and Wonders. My name's Belle Donati. I'm delighted to have you with us for this last show. Well, as you might expect, a very exciting day yesterday. Lots of brand announcements. We've rounded them all up for you. Let's take a look.
Ich denke, das ist nie langweilig, wenn wir sie am Handgelenk haben. Das ist immer wieder etwas Neues, anderes.
Very, very happy to hold this here and happy to explain further.
Of course, all Greubels are made to be worn, but the GMT Sport really takes it to a whole nother level. Let me switch to my helmet cam and show you what I mean.
Merci de nous rejoindre dans le monde magique de Louis Moinet.
Louis Moinet now returns to this epic saga with 4 one-of-a-kind creations featuring authentic meteorite fragments.
J'espère que le travail exceptionnel des artisans de Louis Moinet vous a émerveillé et je vous dis à très bientôt.
But this year, we want to highlight something which is going to pave the coming year, as well as probably the many, many years to come in the business model of our brand.
What is watchmaking today, finally, when you look at it? It must be an emotion, and it cannot only be an investment, or it cannot only be something that we want to collect. It must be fun, it must be pleasure, it must be happy. Purnell is embarking on a contemporary watch journey. The future of watchmaking for Purnell is emotion at a glance, freedom to create, freedom to innovate, and to push the boundaries of performance.
Passion,
intuitif,
artisanat,
excentrique,
aventure,
Extravagance, poétique, sobriété, originalité et sensualité.
Le déconstructivisme, c'est imaginer un espace en ouvrant toutes les portes de réflexion.
Well, it's a dramatic way for us to end the week, certainly. Now that you're up to date on all those announcements, let's talk about the watches in a bit more detail. To do that, I'm joined in the studio by Suzanne Wong. She's the editor-in-chief at World Tempus. Morning to you, Suzanne.
Morning, Belle. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, what joy to have you in the studio. It's absolutely fantastic. Thanks for making the journey. Now, looking at those watches, which of course you're very familiar with, what kind of key theme have you seen within those watches and then more widely this week?
Well, I think one thing that we can sort of analyze and sort of pick up from the videos that we've seen is just leaving aside the diversity of the watches, which is obviously quite huge, is that we see like a renewed or perhaps like an increased emphasis on marketing and outreach and communications, much more than before. I would say that in the past, there was more a tendency to be more product-centric in our industry because perhaps there was a bit of an assumption that if you're heavy on marketing, you might be light on substance, and I can assure you that's obviously not the case. It's quite a logical fallacy, in fact. And what we see now, this return to, or not even a return to, but maybe an increased focus and emphasis on marketing, communications, outreach, storytelling, shall we say, is that we see that brands are starting to emphasize more and more customer outreach. And to me, this can only be a good thing. Like, not to say that, you take the focus away from the product, but you're focusing more on building that bridge between your product and your customer, which is ultimately the most important thing. And obviously we see a great diversity of approaches between like different brands approaches, like you have the TED style talk of Purnell, you have like really high production values, amazing watch videos from Ulysse, Nardin, you have something like a Trilobe, which is really communicating about the brand ethos and the values. But I think that's fine because there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach because there isn't a one-size-fits-all watch.
Absolutely. So it's certainly a theme we've picked up on. Really interesting that's when you've pulled out of storytelling this week. Do you think there's an element to which this is part of the response to such a difficult year? I mean, how have brands responded to this year?
Well, I think very clearly that, with the quiet year that we had in 2020, brands felt compelled to maybe perhaps be a bit more conservative, stay safe, not just, physically and individually, but also in terms of product strategy and what they chose to release. And perhaps also justifiably so, they felt that it wasn't maybe so appropriate to create a big noise and release a watch with huge buzz around it during that particular period of time. But now it's very optimistic to see that brands are coming back with the big watches that they had planned, or planning big releases, doing really, really impressive watches, making a show, in fact. And to me, that's a sign of optimism. When you speak to the CEOs and the brand representatives, they project a very positive message, and you can see that it's not just messaging, because you can see it reflected in the products as well. And to me, that's very encouraging. It's a sign of where we're headed.
That's really interesting because, as you say, that it was very delicate for the luxury industry in general to try and work out how to play during a time that was so difficult for so many to try and create a buzz around products which, most people probably couldn't afford at that time. Would be really, really difficult. Do you get the sense then that going forward, I mean, you've talked about optimism there, the sense that brands are sort of nervous about how to approach the next phase, or is there really a sense now that they're diving back into creativity?
I think they are. I think, they've been sort of obliged to kind of keep quiet and stay quiet over the last year. I think like that creativity and innovation is just kind of waiting for the right moment to burst through. And not only are they being creative in the products that they release, but I think the innovation and the creativity that's being expressed in the way that they talk about the watches, the trend that we've seen. I wouldn't say it's a trend, I would say it's a general movement of more flexible expression and communication about how we refer to watches, whether they're designed for a male audience or a feminine audience. I don't think we see so much of that categorization anymore, and to me that's a very strong reflection of the movement of the times that we're going through.
That's really interesting. And do you think watches as well now can be worn across the board far more easily, or they're less siloed into their kind of different categorizations of when you wear which watch?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not just a gender thing. And in fact, just on that point, when I was having my conversation with Catherine Grenier from Jaeger-LeCoultre, a question came in during the live Q&A section in which someone asked her, when are you going to make a complicated reversal for a woman? And she had with her at that time the quadriptych, the enormous, ultra complicated novelty that Jaeger released. And she said, this is a complicated reversal for a woman. And she put it on her wrist. And to me, that was such a strong statement. And to me, it was I nearly burst with happiness seeing that, because that's been kind of a pet little project of mine that I've been pushing, like this sort of doing away with the categorization of watches into male and female categories. I don't think it's very 21st century.
Really interesting you mentioned that. I think we may be talking more about that on our panel later on this afternoon, in fact, about that exact theme. So thank you so much. Suzanne Wong there, Editor-in-Chief at World Tempus. Thanks for being with us in the studio there.
Thank you so much.
We are going to take a look from the top now.
Yep.
Well, there is so much to hear from the brand bosses on our last day here at the salon. We're going to start now with TAG Heuer. Frédéric Arnaud, the CEO, joins me from Isin. That's just outside of Geneva. Monsieur Arnaud, thank you so much for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you here, well, here but not here this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me this morning.
Now, earlier this year, you announced a long-term partnership with Porsche. How's that going? Just give us a bit of an update on that. What can we expect?
Yeah, Porsche is such a great brand. Since I joined the brand, I really thought this is the partnership we should reveal and announce. And we managed to have a deal with the executives at Porsche. It's a really long-term partnership. It's a brand with which we have so many historical links. We share an iconic name. We've been using both for over 50 years for the same story. We are going to do many activations together. We released a product. The product is very successful. We actually have much more demand than watches we produced, and we are now managing a wait list around the world. We're not going to do too many products. We believe in managing scarcity on this partnership. It's an exclusive partnership. We will have many activations locally in the markets. We already did many events at Porsche Experience, leverage also Porsche cars with our boutiques, and we are doing many communications together. So we are planning a real roadmap for this year and really the years to come.
And very interesting. Thanks for talking us through that. Now, look, we've all had to move online this year, whichever industry we're in. What has your approach been to digital?
Yes, so we've invested quite early in digital. We were firm believers even before the crisis that e-commerce was going to play a big part in our sales. The website is very important for the experience of the brand. Today, more than 90% of the customers, they first experience the brand online, or they go on the website to learn more about the product, more about the stories before even entering the stores. And today, more than ever, the customers are very well aware of everything the brand is doing and everything the competition is doing due to this digital exposition. So it was very important for us to really have a great brand experience on the website. And the whole trick is how to balance brand experience with also a commercial website where it's very easy to purchase the watch, less steps as possible, very intuitive and understandable. And we released our latest platform actually just a month before the crisis started, so in February, and it's shown great success. Online sales, but I think like any other brand, is really booming, and we expect this to continue. This trend really after even people are going back into stores because many people weren't used necessarily to purchasing online, and now they got this habit and they are getting used to it. The work we're doing right now is really how do we humanize even more our website to really offer an experience, a personal experience to our customers like they would have in a boutique.
And of course also connected to this idea of digital is the connected watch. Just tell us how you are establishing yourself within that domain.
Yes. So we released our latest connected watch last March. It's very successful. We have a really unique value proposition, high-end design, high-end materials, a lot of creativity on the watch faces, but also investing on the technology. We have our own software, hardware teams, really working on performance and making sure the experience is as user-friendly as possible. This year, we have a roadmap of software updates, because this is a category we animate differently to mechanical watches. We release updates to increase engagement of our users and to also communicate again on the watch. So we recently updated our golf experience to make it even more fluid between the watch and the phone. Also having new features such as automatic club recommendation with some AI technology in the background, measuring that. And we released also a new wellness product going in this territory, health monitoring from a weekly, daily basis, and it's proving very, very successful. Also, going back to Porsche, when we announced the Porsche partnership, we released a watch face, Porsche, on our connected watch, and it's actually today the most used watch face. So it's also a good way to animate this collection. And we are really looking to invest further in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for talking us through that. Frédéric Arnaud, the CEO of TAG Heuer. We're going to move on to, in fact, we're crossing now live to Nyon, just outside of Geneva. I'm delighted to be joined from there by Ricardo Guadalupe. He's the CEO of Hublot. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Mr. Guadalupe.
Thank you.
Now, it's obviously been an extraordinary year for the industry, for Hublot as well. Are you looking forward to a return to some sense of normality, if we can call it that? Or are you hoping that some of the practices you've adapted during this year might carry forward to a new normal?
Yes, we hope that we will come back to normality. I would say that we are in the right direction. And of course, the evolution of this pandemic and the vaccination will be key to come back to normality, I would say. But of course, it will take time. And this pandemic has learned a lot of things. And of course, digitalization is key. It was, of course, very important before, but it's even important now. And we have seen that digital in every dimension is really key for our brand. And I will give an example, a simple example, that the video conferences have become something essential, like the home office. This is the new normal, I would say, for all our people that are working in administration or marketing. And video conferences is key, also not only internal but external with our customers, with the press. And we have seen this Watches and Wonders has been only digital. And of course, as you were saying before, the storytelling is really important, and the content has become key. And for instance, Hublot, we have decided to build a studio in our factory here in Nyon to really produce an incredible content in video and also in photos. And this is key for the storytelling every time we do a launch of watches. So I would say that there will be a mix between digital and physical that will become really the new normal.
That's really interesting, this idea of that blend between digital and physical. Let's stick with the physical for a second. Your manufacturing centre in Nyon, you're expanding that. Is that beyond just having the extra studio in there?
Yes, of course. I think Hublot, we are a young brand. We have built this manufacturer over now 12 years. We built the first building, a second one, and we want to do a third one because we want to increase really our verticalization, either in our producing our materials of high technology like ceramic or sapphire, and of course from the movement side also increasing the production of our manufacturing movement like our chronograph Unico, our complication. So the idea is really to integrate more know-how, more verticalization, and not increasing the production in quantities, but more in quality, of course.
That's really exciting stuff. And of course, Hublot is the UEFA partner. We have the Euro 2021 coming up next year. What can we expect from the partnership?
Yeah, football is really a big partnership for Hublot, and now it's already since 2008 that we are partner with the UEFA. We are also official timekeeper with the FIFA, so the World Cup as well, that we did the last one from 2010 and the last one in 2018. Euro has been cancelled last year, 2020. It will happen this year, but we don't know exactly if there will be some public. It's going to be normally in 12 different cities. But of course, the partnership of Hublot and football is more on the visibility of the brand through the fourth referee panel that we can see. So it will happen for sure. People will see it on TV. And as I said, this partnership is key for Hublot.
Oh, thank you so much for talking us through that. Ricardo Guadalupe there, the CEO of Hublot. And we're lucky enough to be able to speak to a third CEO this morning. Let's head over to Holstein in the Swiss-German part of Switzerland. That's near Basel. Rolf Studer is waiting for us. He's the CEO at Oris. Morning to you, Mr. Studer. Thank you very much for being with us.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I hope you are also extremely well. Let's talk about Oris. Let's talk about the fact that it's always prided itself on being a unique brand. when you look at the year ahead, where are you going to try and position, where are you hoping to position the brand, and what are your market ambitions?
Well, Oris is one of the last independent brands out there, and independence really is a state of mind for us. So it lets us do what we believe in is right. It lets us do what we think is the right thing to do in the long-term development of the brands. We stand for inclusive luxury. Our customer, he wants to share his joy, his passion, his hobby with his friends. And we believe that this new form of luxury is growing and growing. And also, we know that you don't really need a mechanical watch. So the main purpose of a mechanical watch is to cheer you up. So basically, we are in the business of making people smile, and that is our key ambition.
I love that. I think that's a very good ambition to have, especially at this time. I want to quote you, in fact, because you've said that Oris's guiding principles are common sense, their pragmatism, useful complications. Is that still the case going forward?
Yes, absolutely. Our luxury is the luxury of common sense. At Oris, things must make sense. I'll give you an example. A tourbillon is a fantastic complication, and it's great for many brands. It was developed for pocket watches that sit in the same position all days to level out the force of gravity. On a wristwatch, it's beautiful, but doesn't really make sense. So we would not do that. What we do are depth gauges, altimeters, 10-day power reserves, 5-day power reserves, things like that.
It's such an interesting way to hear you talking about watches, so different from others. And of course, Oris's market has always been a niche. Is that what we can expect? And how has that market evolved over the years?
In what way you think it is a niche, Belle?
Exactly what you were just talking about there. You talked about the fact that the tourbillon is something that you're not interested in. You're not going to be doing that, whereas others, of course, might be. It is that niche that you're going after. Who are your customers?
Well, our customer used to be and still is someone in the know, somebody who understands watches, somebody who knows what's going on. We are expanding now beyond that target group, and with the help of social media, we have leverage as we never had it before, and that is one of the reasons for the success we've had over the last few years. And also, having been making only mechanical watches for a very long time, last fall we launched Caliber 400, our own automatic movement, anti-magnetic, 5 days power reserve, 10 years warranty and service intervals. And now we are on a mission to firmly establish that movement on the market and with our customers.
And can you share any announcements for 2021 with us this morning?
Yeah, well, Caliber 400 is going to be very important for us. We launched it in October. Already in January, we showed the first variation with the small second on Carl Bucherer. Soon we will show a first complication on that movement. And then also the Diver 65 Cotton Candy that we launched a few days here at Watches and Wonders, our 38mm all bronze case, bezel, bracelets and crown watch with 3 funky dials that is here to do exactly what we discussed before, to cheer you up, which was a little bit of the hero for us at Watches and Wonders. That's certainly one of the highlights for me this spring from Oris.
Well, Rolf Studer, thank you so much for cheering us up this morning, co-CEO at Oris. They're joining us from Holstein. Time now for the Watching Brief. Now, we could not get to the end of the week without talking about sport watches. Of course, let's take a look at them.
Sports watches are the expression of precise and robust watchmaking and are made for daily use in the most difficult conditions. Baume & Mercier is the gateway to luxury watchmaking. With this Riviera, the house is asserting its role with force. Presenting a central timing indication in the date, the blue smoked sapphire dial unveils the movement. The 12-sided bezel overlooks the 100-meter water-resistant steel case, which houses the Baumatic caliber. This movement has a 5-day power reserve, high precision, and increased resistance to magnetic fields. Born in 1973, the Baume & Mercier Riviera makes its comeback and goes for sporty chic. Well known to the divers community, Oris has dedicated a spring watch to them. This model comes with a sky blue dial. As a professional diving watch, it presents luminescent indexes and hands, a counterclockwise unidirectional rotating bezel, and a screw-down crown. The date is positioned at 6 o'clock. This 100-meter water-resistant watch is powered by a 38-hour power reserve mechanical movement. This bronze model, designed for the high seas, comes with dials in sky blue, wild green, or lipstick pink. With this watch, the company is referring to its historical models developed for Italian Navy commandos. With a 300-meter water resistance, this watch is a professional diving instrument. Equipped with a unidirectional rotating bezel, it ensures a perfect legibility thanks to the superluminova-coated indexes and hands. The crown guard confirms Panerai's signature. The time is given by central hour and minute hands, a small second counter, and is completed by the date window. The vintage feel is reinforced by the bronze material. The automatic manufacture caliber P.900 beats under the abysmal blue dial. At Panerai, diving watches are second nature, and this submersible is a true call to the sea. TAG Heuer distinguishes itself with its instrument watches. The new Aqua Racer model as a professional diving watch is no exception. The 12-sided unidirectional rotating bezel has a scratch-resistant ceramic insert and a fluted profile for easy handling. The sapphire crystal incorporates a magnifying glass above the date. The water resistance has been increased to 300 meters. The hands and indexes are coated with green and blue superluminova. Also a city model, this Aqua Racer presents softened shapes on the lugs, crown guard, and case middle. The Aqua Racer is back and is proposed in several references and sizes. Rolex has made a name for itself on the wrists of the world's greatest explorers. Launched in 1953 following the first ascent to the summit of the Everest, the Oyster Perpetual Explorer confirms this reputation. The 2021 model features the same 36mm diameter case as the original one and is presented in a yellow Rollesaur version, a combination of oyster steel with 18-karat yellow gold. The Oyster case is 100-meter water resistant and is equipped with the twin-lock winding crown. The black lacquered dial presents the central hour, minute, and seconds, which are evolving around indexes and the 3, 6, and 9 numerals. The chromolite indexes, numerals, and hands are filled with a new exclusive long-lasting luminescent material. Now equipped with a manufacture caliber 3230, the new Oyster Perpetual Explorer is superlative chronometer certified and ensures a remarkable precision. At Rolex, quality, like exploration, is a matter of perseverance. The new generation Explorer and Explorer 2 are emblematic of Rolex's perpetual drive to improve, its never-ending quest for excellence. The observation watches of the early 20th century are a source of inspiration for Montblanc. Apart from the central hour and minute, the watch presents the date at 3 o'clock and a second time zone at 9 o'clock. On its vertical axis, a domed globe gives the time of the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere. Both domes are equipped with day and night indicators. Hands, indexes, and globes are luminescent. This 42mm watch is also equipped with a rotative bezel engraved with cardinal points. The back of the watch pays tribute to Reinhold Messner with an engraving of the Gobi Desert. With this bronze model, Montblanc offers an original interpretation of multiple time zone watches. Zenith is renowned for its very high precision mechanical chronographs. This Defy Extreme proves it. This watch bears 2 regulators. The first one powers the hour, the minute, and the small seconds. The second one comes to life when the chronograph starts. It measures the 1/100th of a second thanks to the central seconds hand, which makes 1 revolution per second, the seconds of the chronograph with the counter at 6 o'clock, and the minute of the chronograph at 3 o'clock. The power reserve indicator of the chronograph is positioned at 12 o'clock. The 200-meter water-resistant case and the bracelet are in microblasted titanium. This 45mm off-road watch is proposed in microblasted titanium and rose gold, and brushed titanium, each one delivered with 3 different straps.
Well, there we go. We've seen the watches. Now let's talk about them. I'm joined to do that in the studio, first of all, by independent watch consultant Gianfranco Richel. Morning to you, Gianfranco.
Good morning, Belle.
And then from Munich by watch trainer Joanna Lange. Joanna, good morning to you.
Good morning, Belle.
Hi. Now listen, let's start with you, Joanna, and just this idea of a sports watch. How has that notion evolved over the years?
Yeah, so as you can see, we expect a lot from these sports watches, and where maybe your idea of extreme sports are maybe different than mine, and we still expect that no matter what sporting activity we're doing, that these watches withstand these extreme conditions. But it goes one step further than that. Nowadays, we are expecting from our sports watches that they look just as good when we're wearing a business suit as when we're wearing a diving suit. So it's this idea of versatility and adaptability that we see coming through this year.
Yeah, and are there any of the watches particularly that you see that in?
Exactly. So if we take a look even at the first timepiece we saw from Baume & Mercier, the Riviera, of course, this is a beautiful timepiece that we can use when we're doing our water sports. Absolutely no problem. It ticks all the boxes. But apart from that, we have this beautiful blue sapphire smoked dial that allows us to see through into the powerful baumatic movement. So this alludes a touch of class, a touch of style that we can also wear every day.
Well, we're seeing it, in fact, on the screen, Joanna, because Gianfranco has it in the studio, that Baume & Mercier. Gianfranco, the next model that we're going to talk about, to my eye, my untrained eye, doesn't even look like a sports watch.
And yet, it is a sport watch. This Oris Diver 65, it's something really original with this sky blue dial, which brings us a little smile every day. And interesting is also the bronze case and the bronze bracelet, like old instrument, old diving instrument, which we used before we invented stainless steel. It oxidates just a little bit on the surface, and it changes the color after a while. We call it a patina. And that's the beauty of bronze, and depending how the wearer wears it, it will be really, personalized in a kind of way.
It's beautiful with that color, isn't it?
The other one we have seen, it's the Panerai submersible Bronzo Blu Abisso. You heard the accent?
I did.
It's typical Italian, of course. It's really, like I said before, an old diving instrument. I really would like to be able to compare these two watches, the Panerai with the Oris, after a while, because it depends how the owner wears these watches, and it will look completely differently. And the third one is the TAG Heuer, the Aquaracer Professional 300, which, like Johanna said, it's a real diving tool, but redesigned to be worn today with the suit and tie during a business meeting, just to prove how sporty is your private life.
There we go. Joanna, I have a question for you, which is, traditionally when I've been talked, when we've talked about sports watches, it always seems like a bit of a man's world. Is that the case now?
Of course not. I mean, we have many ladies, explorers, mountaineers who have reached the summit of Mount Everest. They've gone to the depths of the ocean. So, and we see this also from a lot of the brands endorsing female professionals in all lines of the sporting world. If we take a look at Rolex, for example, this year they launched the Explorer again in the original case size that they released in 1953, so the 36 millimeter. And of course, this can look just as good on a lady's wrist as on a gentleman's wrist.
That's really interesting. What about the next watch that we have, the Montblanc? Is there do you see a similarity with that? Is there any comparison we can draw?
Of course, yeah. The adventure or the exploration spirit, of course, continues here. If we take a look at the Montblanc 1858 Geosphere, this is a tribute to Reinhold Messner when he has trekked across over 2,000 kilometers across the Gobi Desert. And here we really see, look at the dial on this. We can be standing from the North Pole, looking at the Northern Hemisphere with the rotating globe, or in the 6 o'clock position, the world from the South Pole. So we have a great observation here. We have the cardinal points on the bezel, north, south, east, and west, and it's all within this beautiful bronze case that alludes the idea of the sands of the desert. So it's this real spirit of exploration.
Gianfranco, you have the final watch in the studio with us. Talk to us about this one.
Absolutely. The Zenith Defy Extreme, a really sporty and robust watch, which has, as we heard in the movie before, the particularity to have two beating hearts. It means two balance wheels, one vibrating 5 hertz, and one 10 times faster. And this allows us, as soon as we press the pusher here, to have a fast running second hand and being able to measure lapse of time in an absolutely precise way, and measuring the 100th of a single second, just to prove we can finish my part of the morning shows perfectly in time.
Absolutely in time. Boop, to the second, to the hundredths of a second. There we go. Gianfranco, thank you so much. Gianfranco there in the studio with us. Joanna, of course, in Munich, talking us through those beautiful new watches. We are now going behind the clock face. Now, by now, you know that all through the week we've been bringing you the most fantastical and boundary-pushing innovations in watchmaking. Well, on this, the last day, we're focusing on two brands. We're going to start with IWC, that's achieved a technical feat. Well, let's travel now to the Maldives to see what Carl F. Bucherer is doing to protect a very special and endangered species. Goodness me, that makes you dream of travelling again, doesn't it? Well, we are now going to talk about the panel discussions. It's been a busy week for the panels. We've been bringing you those every day, as you know, the panel, the discussion that happens, organised by the Fondation every lunchtime. We're going to get an update on yesterday's and then on today's with Pascal Ravessou, the Director of External Affairs for the Fondation and a watchmaking expert. Morning to you, Pascal.
Good morning, Belle.
Now, yesterday we spoke about blockchain. It was a fascinating discussion, really in depth, wasn't it?
Yes, really in depth. It's a revolution, blockchain. We know. So we've heard about exploration and hopes, a few solutions, but also real challenges. Digital certificates are already now implemented for the benefits of both the brands and the clients, but there are a few pitfalls, and how are we going to resolve them? Then it's work in progress. Then is high resolution imagery going to be the standard to identify all the watches? Then only time will tell. And then the big challenge is really the footprint. Just one figure, one single Bitcoin transaction uses the same energy as 680,000 credit card transactions. So it's probably the start of a fascinating journey balancing the risks and the opportunities here.
Absolutely, a lot of work to do, but we did hear that, as you say, it was the revolutionary force that we might have expected it could be. Today, I'll be with you again in the studio, and we'll be talking today about the whole week. We'll be having a look back at the trends that have emerged over this week. Are you excited about that?
Yes, definitely, because we've spoken about a few watches, illustrating a few trends, then we're going to be a little bit more in depth and see the trends that emerge for all the wonders that have been presented this week. Immensely rich week that we had, and we try to go really not speaking about specific watches, but really going into trends. One interesting and recurring theme is the gender question, or maybe rather the non-gender question. And then we probably have the opportunity to continue just after the end of the panel. We'll continue the discussion on Clubhouse.
Fantastic. And of course, on that gender issue, that was what we were talking about with Suzanne even this morning. So definitely an emerging trend. Just talk us through who we have on set.
Yes, we have Charlene Boyd, the fine jewelry and watch editor of Net-a-Porter. We'll have Chris Hall, the senior watch editor of Mr. Porter. Nick Sullivan, the creative director of Esquire. Emmanuel Guet, watch designer from Geneva, here on our set. And also on our set, our very best effort to have our expert, Gianfranco Richel, again back on the studio.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a really nice, busy panel. Lots of people externally and, of course, here in the studio. So really looking forward to that. Thanks very much, Pascal.
Thank you. Rather sad to have the last one, but yeah,
it's not over yet. It's not over yet. We've still got the panels. We've got the whole day. But no, I know what you mean. Sure. It's been a pleasure being with you on set all this week. Well, before we do go, because it is nearly the end of the show, we're going to take a look ahead at the physical salon, which of course starts tomorrow in Shanghai. Now, Carsten Chan is there for us. You know that because you've seen him all week talking to us from Shanghai. He's the chief advisor to the Fondation. Let's go live to him.
Good morning, Belle. Live from Shanghai, Carsten here, standing right in front of the 2021 second edition of the Watches and Wonders Shanghai. Last edition, the first one, happened in September, so a little bit about 6 months ago. The last one, we only had 11 brands. Now, this edition, we have 19 brands, including 5 of them are independent maisons. If you want to know more content about what's happening inside, please stay tuned to the Watches and Wonders platform for daily updates. Thank you.
Well, now that really is all we have time for. It has been an absolute joy starting the day with you this week. Thank you so much for your company. Before you get too downhearted, it is not over. We still have the panel ahead today and plenty of activity on the platform. And remember, you have until the end of this month to keep exploring that platform. It'll stay open until the 30th of April, so do make sure you explore. Of course, then, there's the physical event starting in Shanghai tomorrow for those lucky enough to be there. For those of you who aren't, you can follow it on social media on the Watches and Wonders official account. From here and from Geneva, from all of us, goodbye.